Welcome, everyone. My name is Chris Ajemian, and I'm a member of Bridgewater Communities for Civil Rights, BCCR. You may have seen us out on the Common over by Walgreens every once in a while with our signs, and we enjoy positive beeps from your car as you're driving by if you feel so inclined. We always feel good if somebody beeps at us, the right kind of beep. BCCR is a grassroots organization dedicated to supporting the civil rights of the members of our community and beyond. One of our goals is to create awareness of issues that impact the lives of our community members and society at large. We are proud to be presenting this forum tonight. Disability is not inability. I want to thank the library for making this space available for our forum. And some announcements have to do with the geography of the building. The restrooms are right outside the door to your right. And the elevator for later is straight out the door to the left. The library starts its closing procedures at 7:45, so we must leave the building before then. So that's why we'll watch the time a little closely. I want to thank the agencies that were here tonight that shared information about their services, the services that they provide to members of the community and the families who face challenges to living full lives. We hope that you had an opportunity to speak with them all, the Representative Bamsey, from B, the community, Hope, House of Possibilities, TIL, toward Independent Living and Learning, the Uniquely Abled Academy, the Student Accessibility Services, both from Bridgewater State University, and the Bridgewater Disabilities Commission. We're very grateful for their participation and presence here tonight. I want to acknowledge and thank Jeff Fowler and his team from BTV Community Access Television who are recording the forum. And our plan is to make the recording available for viewing soon by a wider audience. And finally, we all know that it takes a village, but often it takes a committee. And I want to recognize the committee that worked for several months to put this forum together. Just wave, please, if you're out there. I know that you're out there. Janice Campbell-Means is the chair of BCCR. Maureen Powers, who arranged for a lot of the goodies. Debbie Drago. Donna Auger, whose granddaughter Lucy, a student at Smith College, created our flyer. And Kayla DeFino. Kayla is a student at Bridgewater Raynham. And she's our technical assistant. She did all the QR codes for the posters over there, something which my generation did not learn in high school. And our refreshments tonight are from the Boundless Bean, Bridgewater establishment, and from some of our BCCR members. Thank you all. The Americans with Disabilities Act became law in 1990. After many years of struggle and lobbying. I hope that you had a chance to see the video of 8-year-old Jennifer Keelan Chaffins over there at our BCCR table, and the book about her Capitol crawl at our table over there. That display was created and put together by Kayla. Jennifer crawled all the way to the top of the Capitol steps and on her hands and knees. If you haven't seen that video, it's quite something. She did that to show her support for the Americans with Disabilities Act and to demonstrate the inaccessibility of that government building and so many others around the country at that time. Today, while everything is not perfect, and our panelists can testify to that, there is greater awareness of the needs of the community served by the ADA and increased accessibility to public places more than ever before, thanks to the ADA and people like Jennifer. The umbrella of disabilities is wide and varied, and not always visible. Tonight, we will not be able to recognize or mention all the issues that can interfere with the ability to lead fulfilling and productive lives, but we hope to inspire you to greater understanding. Our goal tonight is to create some awareness about the challenges and obstacles that people with disabilities face as they go about trying to live full lives, which we believe is a civil right. We also hope to share the joy and celebration of lives well lived. To help us on that journey, we are privileged and excited to have 3 panelists tonight: Mark Henderson, Alina Poklad, and Dr. Angela Shebley. Each will speak in turn, and we'll hopefully have time for questions at the end. So I'll start with introducing Mark. Mark Henderson is a resident of Bridgewater and has a degree in physical education from Bridgewater State University. He has a master's degree in adaptive physical education from Ohio State University and taught in the field of physical education for 10 years. During 6 of those years, he taught adolescents and adults with autism. Mark, please tell us more.
Sure. My journey started when I was born, of course. I was born too much premature. There are many complications along that road, and everything was fine until I was 2. Then I wasn't walking on time. Up to then, all my milestones were hit before or, on time. But at 2 years old, I hadn't started walking yet. My parents took me to the specialist, and they figured out that I had cerebral palsy, spastic cerebral palsy to be specific. With that, my leg muscles are extremely tight. I used to walk on my toes. I did gymnastics, and they taught me twinkle toes because I walked on my toes. And that, along with that, is motor control, balance issues, and movement issues too. When I was 7, I had a stomach ulcer. But when they took X-rays for that, they found out that I have Legg-Perthes disease, which is common in people with CP. Usually you have your ball and socket joint that fits in nicely here. Mine is slipping out and up. They've done 3 operations on the hip itself, to 1 steel plate in the side, and then 2 procedures to make a new socket. So I go every year to get the X-ray and see how it's doing. Everything's fine at this point, but eventually they say I might have to have a total hip replacement from that. So I had many hospitalizations due to CP and the Legg-Perthes disease. I was in a bunch of casts. 3 times I was in a cast up here, because when you're little, they don't want you to move after you have your surgery. So I was cast up here, my legs spread out wide. They had to tip me to get me in through a hospital door. So and that was crazy. I had long leg braces when I was younger, from my hips to my feet. Leather and metal. Scary stuff. On top of that, I had asthma and allergies from when I was little till now, actually. And that brings on a whole other thing. I was always involved in sports. Since I was little, gymnastics, swimming, basketball, wheelchair basketball, tennis, team handball. I danced with 3 different dance groups for like 12 years. In 2008, I developed severe chronic back pain. Up to then, I was teaching. I was going for my 2nd master's degree in dance therapy. I was dancing in 2 different dance troupes, driving everywhere, doing Special Olympics with the kids at where I worked. After that, everything stopped. And that was really, really hard. But I was one of the first students in the California school systems to be mainstreamed. I have a degree in physical education from Bridgewater State University and a master's degree from Ohio State in adaptive phys ed. And I taught 10 years, and as I said, the last 6 I taught adolescents and adults with autism. I don't consider myself disabled or handicapped. Disabled to me is brings about the idea of a disabled car on the side of the road that has a flat tire and can't go anywhere. Sorry, sometimes I get emotional, but that's just me. That's another side effect of the CP2. I get more emotions than you might. Like, for instance, when my nieces had dance recitals, I would get very emotional. So, and handicapped comes from cap in hand when people with challenges, disabilities would beg for money on the side of the road. And that's not me either. So I consider myself physically challenged, and that kind of levels the playing field. Everyone has a challenge, and challenges, you can overcome them or you have difficulty with them. And so everyone's in that perspective, everyone's in the same boat. With having a physical challenge, there are many issues. One is accessibility. Stairs is obviously an issue. Sometimes there's like a 6-inch stair to get into a building. I can do it actually, but a lot of people won't be able to. Bathrooms are sometimes not accessible to the point where sometimes I have to park my chair outside the bathroom and walk in. Sometimes I had to put my chair in the door of the stall so the stall stays open when I'm trying to go to the bathroom. That's not good either. I went to a convention this past weekend, and they say their room is accessible. The bed was like this high. A little hard to get into for me, but possible. The bathroom was accessible to the point where I could move around. But there was a bathtub, grab bar, which what they should have was a roll-in shower. That would have been much easier. But my friend who went with me couldn't get into the tub, so she had to take a sponge bath instead. The other issues with accessibility are, I was walking down, well, I say walking, but rolling down the street. I came to a crosswalk, and I was crossing. I saw a pothole that was 4 feet wide, 4 feet long, like 6 inches wide, and like an inch deep. I'm like, well, typical. I'll have to go around it. I miscalculated. Not good. My front wheel hit the edge of the pothole. I went forward. My hands now are on the pavement. My back wheels are up in the air. And I was like, okay, now what do I do? So I was trying to think. I couldn't push myself up. I didn't have the strength to push myself to right myself. So I was like, I knew the light was changing, and I had seconds. I was like, I don't know. Didn't know what to do. Luckily, someone came by right in me. I got to get into the crosswalk. I was fine. But I had to compose myself at that point. Ridiculous. But other things, well, misconceptions and preconceived notions about having a physical challenge. Not a lot of people, but some people would not talk to me, talk to the person I'm with. Maybe talk down to me or talk condescendingly. Or, people bump into my chair and not say excuse me. I don't know where that comes from. That's one of the things that really bug me. I mean, if I bump into you, I say excuse me. Other things, same on the same. I get kids that will stare and wonder. I don't mind that at all. I'll stop and interact, and if they have any questions, I'll tell them about, my legs don't work like yours do, and I need the chair to get around. And it's more the adults that are an issue at this point. Some of them will shoo their children away, and they won't let me talk to them. Sorry. I kid them. At that point, what message are you sending the kids? Don't talk to people who are different. Other things, of course, financial issues. I don't drive because on a fixed income. I can't drive. I have driven. So that leads to transportation issues. I can get rides to my medical transportation. And other services are like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, which, what if I want to do something on the weekend or at night? I have to rely on my friends, my relatives, and people, which is fine, but when I have to ask for a ride, I don't know, it doesn't sit right with me. I do it, but it just, I don't know. I'm so independent that I don't want to ask for things, but I do if I need them. One major issue would be mental health issues. Regardless of when the challenge starts, if you're a kid or early on or later in life, there are many issues that you have to go through and deal with, including anger, frustration, depression, anxiety, sadness, grief, and a bunch of other things. So that's a major issue. You need a lot of resources to go through a physical challenge or any challenge in particular, including doctors, nurses, mental health counselors, social workers, caseworkers, and they help you, guide you through the system and assess your needs and guide you to the things that will help you out. Some are here tonight. Thank you for coming. But it all starts at home. I had a great support system. My family and my brother and sister and everybody. They gave me, sorry, I have to breathe. They gave me the gift of independence, and they gave me the gift of knowing that anything is possible, and I just have to maybe find a different way to do things than regular people or able-bodied. They gave me that, and what else? Sorry, one more. They gave me the gift of determination, and they never treated me as, well, they never treated me as really special. They treated me as just another brother, niece, nephew, son. I have stories. I have lots of stories. The book will come out later. Stories that I don't tell today, there'll be plenty more, so I'm working on that. But when I was little, I was going towards the stairs, and sorry, I don't know if I can do this, but I'll try. But I was going toward the stairs, and Dad said to Mom was going to pick me up and bring me in the house. He said not to do that because I need to learn independence and to do things on my own. I was able to get in the house, no problem. My mother gave me and my parents and everyone, the attitude that I can do anything. I might have to adapt, but that's what I do. For my love of sports and adapting things from when I was 2, I became an adaptive physical education teacher. Mom and Dad, I came to my mother one day and I told her that I couldn't jump, but she said, "Sure you can." Sorry. It was really emotional sometimes. She said, "You can, you just have to figure out a way to do it." So I came back, I thought about it, I came back. I figured it out. I put my hands up to the door jambs and and I jumped on my own. I might skip a few stories, sorry. Kind of emotional. So after that, I was teaching students with visually impaired students, and one of my students came to me and said he couldn't jump. I'm like, "Sure he can. Just take my hands and push off the ground." He did. So, not sure. Am I close on time or? Couple more stories and then I'll finish up. Determination. I was very determined from when I was a little kid. Mom told me stories about people she knew that had given up and just sat around and didn't do anything with their life, and I was determined that wouldn't be me. So Mom had Flintstones vitamins on the top of the refrigerator, thinking that, her kids wouldn't be able to get up there. Beside the refrigerator was a drawer and drawers and a counter. I pulled up the drawers and I was able to make stairs. I got up to the counter and I got my Flintstone vitamins. I gave my sister one. Mom found the empty bottle and she's like, "Why did you give your sister one?" I'm like, "Well, you're only supposed to have one a day." She said, "Why is it empty?" I'm like, "They tasted good." My family always treated me as normal, as they could. But goes to the extreme though. My uncle had a ticket to the Celtics game, and he came to our house, and I'm like, "Mom, can I go?" She's like, "Sure, you can go." So we parked the car, get out. I'm walking with crutches at this point, with my full leg braces, leather and metal everywhere. I wanted to get the game, and we had to walk from the car to the Boston Garden at the time. And so I was walking a little faster than usual. I tripped, I fell. I was fine. You learn how to fall so you don't hurt yourself when you fall often. But I fell and I hit the ground. My uncle, he says, "What are you doing on the ground? We're going to be late for the game. Get up, let's go." I'm on the ground, laughing at him because I know he sees me. We told the story years later. He's like, "If you could have seen the people's faces, I thought I was going to die. They were going to kill me." But I was there. I was laughing. I got up. Everything is fine. We got to the game. And I think I saw one of Larry Bird's first games. It was cool. Dave Callens was there. It was really cool. Today, I live alone with my cat Tyrion. I'm the vice president of the Tennis Association where I live. I'm a certified personal trainer with online training specialty and specialty in special populations. I just got my email on the mark fitness at outlook.com. So I'm starting a business soon with that. I'm involved with my UU church. I'm writing a book, so all the stories that I miss, or lots of stories, will be in that. Stay tuned. And last thing, I'm going to be in the Crucible, which opens on the 8th of November, runs from the 8th, 9th, and 10th at the UU Church in Bridgewater. I have flyers if you want. Acting is another thing I do. There's a whole nother story all to that, so that'll be in the book too. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. What does one say? It's wonderful. And I'm glad you found a way. Look forward to that book. Our next speaker is Alina Poklad. Alina is from Estonia, one of the countries, the Baltic countries, that became independent after the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991. And the country did not have accessible facilities at that time. She was born with spinal muscular atrophy, and Alina persevered to gain an education, earning an undergraduate and a graduate degree in information technology in her native country, as well as a master's degree in computer science from Bridgewater State University. She is currently pursuing a PhD in cultural studies with a focus on disability studies. Alina Poklad.
Yeah, I think everyone hear me? The back row are okay? Yeah. Okay. So, hello everyone. Thank you for coming today. And before we start, I would like to introduce myself with the format that is currently used in disability study conference and events. Actually, I hope that one day it will become the norm for all public speeches and presentation, when you do not know your audience, and there is always a chance that there is a person with visually disabled person in attendance. So it's common to start like, hello, my name is Alina Poklad. I'm in my mid-30s. I have a long red hair, and I'm in power wheelchair. And today I'm wearing striped sweater and jeans. And now let's start. So as you see, I'm a disabled person. I have SMA, spinal muscular atrophy, and it is a genetic disease. It's progressive genetic disease that makes my muscles weaker and weaker. And often the life of person with such disease ends because you can't breathe anymore, because your lungs become too weak. But don't worry, several years ago, it was invented treatment. The drug doesn't cure the disease, but it stopped it. So at least I hope that it stopped, and I feel that. So I'm on this drug. I am happy that I'm here in this country and I get this drug, and I'm stable. And fortunately, when I was a child, I didn't know about this scary prognosis. So I grew up feeling like an ordinary child. And the same as told Mark, my parents raised me as just my sibling. So as you know, I'm from Estonia, a small country, Eastern European country. And I came to United States, to the USA 2.5 years ago to pursue my master's degree in computer science at Bridgewater State University. This May, I graduated from this perfect place, really. I like it so much that from this September I started to teach there. So now I'm part-time professor. In addition to my master's degree in IT, I have a master's degree in cultural studies. I finished writing my PhD thesis in disability studies, so now I'm waiting for the defense of it in December. So as you can see, I could get several degrees in different areas. I could move from one small Eastern European country to a big West country. I travel a lot, so disability does not always equal inability. However, as you can guess, it cost me double effort to get each of my degree and come here and travel. It's many of obstacles, and most of them Mark already said, about most of them Mark already told you. And this obstacle exists because our world is not super accessible. Moreover, I could not have done it, all the things, without help of my parents. But today, I think that I do not want to speak about all the challenges that me and other people with disability experience, especially as Mark already talked, most of them. Instead, I would like to speak, why does it happen? Why nowadays in 21st century in the country, I think one of the most accessible country in the world, in the country where people with disabilities started to fight for their rights for the first time in the history, I still see some accessible things that are in fact not accessible at all. So let's reflect on it. For example, recently I was in Walmart, but the same problem I see in other shops. There is special fitting room, like handicap fitting room, but I can't use it properly. Why? Yeah, it's really big enough. I can enter inside, but inside I found mirror. In front of mirror there is fixed bench, and this bench is it is good thing, because if I need to fit trousers, I need to lay down. It's perfect. But when I don't want to lay down, if I do not have somebody near me, I just want to try t-shirt. The bench is fixed in front of mirror. I can't use this mirror. So I went inside, I try my t-shirt, I go out, I find the mirror, I look at it, I go back, I put next t-shirt. It's not accessible. The same things happen with restrooms. For example, I need the help of my father and mother. I need two people to lift me. Where should I go? We always have dilemma. Should I go to the men restroom and watch a naked man? How do they pee? Or should my father go inside women restroom? Moreover, I'm happy that here you have gender neutral, but not everywhere, unfortunately. So personally, I believe that I believe that there are 2 or even 3 reasons why does it happen, why we have accessibility that is not accessible. And these 3 reasons, they are connected with each other. The first one is a lack of people with disability in position that could influence on the issue of accessibility or society at all. And the second one is belief that disability is the worst fate and fear of it. So now let's talk about it. First of all, people with disabilities barely participate in creating accessibility. In the best case, they are invited as a consultants when something is already done, not in the beginning. So the people who create hospital, roads, university, and accessibility inside, I mean architects, managers, builders, all they are usually able-bodied people. So they create accessibility from the point of view of healthy or able-bodied person. And usually their knowledge are based on some books and movies from previous centuries. So they are stigmatized. Even such discipline as disability study are very often taught by able-bodied people. I think that me and Mark, we are like exceptions, but don't we have disabled people, educated disabled people in these disciplines? We have plenty of them, but society usually does not perceive them as equal. For most able-bodied people, disabled people are different or other, which is why they do not hire them very often. If you think that I'm wrong with such an attitude, here's a funny story from my personal experience. My parents' English is very limited, so as I told, we are just 2.5 years in the USA. But every time when we go anywhere, be it restaurant, social security office, Walmart, I don't know, yesterday we were in Isabella Garden and Museum. In all places, people working there address and start a conversation with my parents. And I find it's very funny because they can't answer. And I stay silent and look at this worker until the person is not brave enough to ask me. Moreover, if I go to a restaurant, I even made a bet with my friends, like the waitress always brings the bill to my friend, never to me. She will also speak, or he will speak with my friend. So these are the small example of stereotypical thinking about disabled people as other from daily life. Now imagine what happens in an able-bodied mind when people like me apply to work, if even for conversation, everyone addressed to somebody able near me. You should be super open and proactive to break all stereotypes, and even give like short story of disability or special education course in first interview. And I'm successful in that, but not all disabled people are. Even today, and also in my first class, I started by explaining my disability because I know that if I wouldn't do this, my students and you will think like, what has happened with her? Why she's in a wheelchair? And I wanted that my student would be focused on my subject, not on my disability. So I explained all about my disease on the first class. So disabled people can more easily get education nowadays than in the past, especially here in Western countries. But it's still rare to see people in wheelchairs working as teachers, doctor, architects, etc. Why? Because as I said, able-bodied people often feel discomfort with us. Able-bodied people often do not know what is the right way to communicate with disabled people. For example, they always think whether it's worth offering some help or not. May an able-bodied person ask about the reason why I'm in a wheelchair, or is it indecent to do so? Is it okay to look at me, or should they pretend that I look absolutely the same as other people in the room and do not attract any specific attention? As a result of such uncertainty and desire to avoid uncomfortable situations, able-bodied people in most cases prefer to work with able-bodied people. But why do we feel that uncertainty and discomfort? I suppose because we know too little about disability and living with that. And it leads us to the second reason why our world is not super accessible. Able-bodied people know very little about disability, and to be honest, I'm not thinking about you, you are here, but usually they do not want to know more because they have a fear of disability. In the past, it was understandable. Disability meant death in the past because there was no medicine, there was nothing. And it was normal to be afraid of disability. It is a human instinct. But today, with modern medicine, it is not justified fear. But able-bodied people fear disability so much that they like to say me or other people with disability, I'm sure Mark agree with me, like, I would not accomplish even half of what you do if I were in a wheelchair. Or, you are so brave, like if I fight the dragon every day. Or something like, I could not live in a wheelchair at all, and you are so strong. They think that they are making a compliment to me. But if you think enough, you will understand that these are not very pleasant words. I know that you think you say that because you would like to encourage me, but the root of such words lies in the belief that disability equals a lack of happiness, family, full life, lack of love, sex, and friends. In fact, such phrases prove the most common stereotype, the belief that the disability is the worst destiny. We fear it so much that we try to avoid even thinking about it, even thinking it could happen to us. However, as disability study scholars said, everyone will be disabled if he or she lives long enough. And it's true, we all know this. But we deny those thoughts as scary and continue to construct houses with stairs and then think about how to adapt them so that a relative or friend in a wheelchair can enter. It takes a lot of time and it's expensive to rebuild. But haven't you thought that a ramp, it is a convenience not only for a person with wheelchair, it's also convenient for older people, a pregnant women, or a parent with a stroller. They are also more convenient for moving from one place to another and to bring a sofa. Ramps make houses a convenience for much broader range of people than people in wheelchair, but we still build the stairs. Consider yourself as a woman, as a young mother with a baby in stroller. Renting an apartment means to lifting the stroller up and down stairs with baby every day. Despite the inconvenience, you accept the situation without protest. Moreover, worldwide, women continue to handle this challenge without complaining. Why? Because they know that it is temporary. But what if it's not temporary issue? What if you had to deal with stairs and strollers for all your life? In such a scenario, I suppose that young mothers might react differently and start to protest of it. Able-bodied people do not bother about accessibility so much as me because they believe that it does not concern them. Isn't it a paradox? We know that at a certain age we will be disabled for sure. Moreover, anyone could become disabled because of an accident. But instead of preparing at least our own houses for that situation, we continue to build things from the perspective that we will be young and healthy forever, from the perspective of white middle-aged men. We think with the stereotypes of previous centuries, when stairs were everywhere and disabled people, black people, gays, and women were hidden or not active members of society. We think that we are modern, but our minds are still a full, old way of thinking. When I speak with some of my new acquaintances, they really believe that disability is a sentence. That you cannot be happy, create a family, or travel, and they are surprised by my way of life. Yes, my life is full of obstacles, but if you take away those physical obstacles, then you would see that my life does not differ from yours very much. Able-bodied people like to call disabled people like people with special needs. In fact, my needs is not special. I would like to feel safe, happy, well-fed, to love and be loved, to be useful and valuable. It's not special needs. It's usual needs. You have the same needs. And I believe that if our environment were more accessible, and it's not just ramps and stairs. For example, this table is not accessible. It's too low. I can't go further. I can't use computer normally. So if If our environment were more accessible, then able-bodied people would stop fearing disability so much. One more reason why able-bodied people are afraid of disability so much is dependency. We hate to think that if we were in a wheelchair, then we would depend on other people and not be free in our actions. And yes, it's true. I depend on my parents or other caregivers 24 hours. But if the world were accessible, the dependency would be much less. Yes, I cannot dress independently, I cannot drive, cook, etc. And you fear exactly these things, correct? But why don't you feel fear of being a president or famous politician? Let's consider that. If I compare a disabled person to a president, both depend on other people for dressing. Usually the president does not even have choice what to wear. Moreover, neither of us cooks. We rely on other people for that task. Similarly, I may have ideas and plans, but I need assistance to execute them, just as the president does. The difference lies in the ability to command assistance. I must ask for help, while the president and other famous rich people and politicians can delegate. If we broaden our perspective, we will see that every wealthy and influential people are actually quite similar to disabled individuals. They too rely heavily on others and engage in minimal physical activity, like chores. Most of us dream about becoming such a wealthy person and do not fear it. So the question is in the status of dependency. And to sum up, disability doesn't equal unhappiness or happiness. It is the same as skin color, race, or sex. It's just your identity, but it doesn't define you as a whole person. The difference is that with other identities, they are fixed. You are either black or gay, part of oppressed minority, or you aren't. However, with disability, it's more complex. At any moment, any of us can transition from the majority with power to the oppressed minority. And I hope that in the future, we try to know more about it by participating in events such as this. And maybe we stop fearing it and try to think about it as about being black or gay. I hope that in the future we will think how to minimize the challenges that come with disability, even if it is not connected with our life yet. I really hope that one day people will not say that being disabled and active means to be brave or strong. I want it to be one kind of a norm. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. Certainly giving us many things to think about.
I hope.
And now our final panelist, Angela Shebley. It's working, good. Dr. Angela Shebley is a licensed educational psychologist and currently works as a school psychologist in the King Philip Regional School District in Wareham. For 20 years, Angela worked as a software engineer and software developer before making a career change to education and mental health. Angela has lived in Florida, California, Washington, D.C., and she now resides in Bridgewater, the best place, right, Angela? In Bridgewater with her husband, David, who's here tonight, and her adult son, Dylan, who has autism. Angela, would you please share your story with us?
Can you hear me, everyone? Okay, I have a fair amount of things to share, so I'm going to just sort of hit all of the bullets quickly. and hopefully clearly. Just to give you a little background on myself, I grew up in the Washington, D.C. suburbs. My parents were from New York and Pennsylvania. My mother went to Vassar. My father went to Williams College. My mother died when I was 12. My father died when I was 35. I graduated from University of Virginia undergraduate. I went to California, where I married my first husband in San Francisco in 1985. I moved back to Virginia 3 years later, worked in IT for companies including Oracle Corporation and Johnson & Johnson. I then moved to Tampa in 1989, Tampa, Florida. And at age 31, I gave birth to my son, Dylan, in 1993. At that time, I was working for Johnson & Johnson as a software engineer. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about Dylan's childhood years and then his current transition into adulthood. He's now 31 years old. So to start out with, he was hospitalized at 12 days old for 10 days due to feeding problems and dehydration. He was always a really good baby, very complacent, very quiet, slept a lot. He always did show interest in visitors. He would run to the door. He was so excited when people would come. He had early speech and language delays. He had absolutely no eye contact and still does not. No hugging, no touching. Early intervention began at around 20 months, following a child find evaluation with the school system. By age 3, he was only saying a few words. He was not combining words, but he had normal receptive language. He could understand pretty much everything that you would say to him. Around that time, his paternal grandparents, my sister-in-law, and a close friend of mine who had her PhD in education, child development, they all brought up that big, ugly word of autism. So, for example, when he was 3, he was given a toy vacuum, and he vacuumed and vacuumed and vacuumed for hours by the Christmas tree. So that's an example of, repetitive behaviors. The pediatrician referred us to the local developmental pediatrician for an evaluation, and at right around the same time, he was evaluated by the Hillsborough County School System in Florida. We tried lots of interventions, including OT sensory integration therapy, which was very helpful, auditory processing integration therapy, group speech therapy, individual speech therapy. Still, every time my mother-in-law would come and visit us, she would say, "Isn't there something you can do?" And we would run through all the things that we're trying. So because it was 20, almost 30 years ago, I paid out of pocket until he was in kindergarten for speech therapy. Since that time, they've passed a law in Florida, as well as they have here in Massachusetts, that requires insurance to cover speech, OT, PT, and behavior therapy. He had an extra year of preschool. He started kindergarten in the public schools at age 6. At age 7, I decided I wanted to change my career to school psychology, and I started graduate school when he was 7. I also switched him to a charter school because kindergarten was a bit of a disaster. So I switched him to a charter school that was supposedly specializing in kids with autism spectrum kinds of disorders. So he went there for grades 1 through 3, and then I brought him back to Pasco County in 4th grade, since by that time I was working there. So I wanted him in my school district where I could keep an eye on things. So then there's lots of stress on the marriage because of special needs, having a special needs child, adding to the mental health challenges of Dylan's biological father, and that led to a separation and divorce when Dylan was 9. And incidentally, the divorce rate for parents in families with autism is about 80%. So, I mean, the typical divorce rate for typical families is 60%, so it's still higher than that. But so at age 9, he started medication for anxiety. That was precipitated by meltdowns he was having in the middle of my doctoral comps for my PhD. So that was interesting. Around that time, I also asked the pediatrician, the developmental pediatrician, do you think he's ever going to be able to live on his own? And he responded, well, we'll just have to see. The real world may not be for Dylan. Well, what we found out is that probably that was the case, so far anyway. But I'm always hopeful. I'm always optimistic, and I'm always, as my husband will tell you, I'm always willing to try new things and new approaches. Anyway, at age 10, I started working full-time as a school psychologist. Age 11, I married this wonderful man. He was absolutely, completely accepted by Dylan. He's an excellent stepdad and does, so much, and is just, I don't know what I would do without you. Dylan was finally diagnosed at age 11. At that time, it was called high functioning autism. That was according to the old DSM. He was not diagnosed with Asperger's because he was very language delayed, and that's kind of used to be the defining factor. When he was 12, I graduated with a PhD, and I started private practice. I continued working in the schools, but I really would not have made the career change without having a son with autism. I can absolutely tell you that. And there are others. Parents of children with autism, we kind of have a reputation in the schools. You kind of don't want to mess with us. Kind of like any parents with special needs kids, I think we get a little bit fierce at times, right?
Yes.
Yes. When he was in high school, it was like a second job at home. I would come home and do a lot of tutoring with him and helping him with his homework. When he was 18, he got his driver's license and drove himself to school his entire senior year. When he was 18, he also graduated with honors, National Honor Society, from high school. At that point, when he was 19, and right in there is also when I had a stroke. Somehow I forgot to mention that in here. I had a massive stroke, and he was a junior in high school when that happened. I recovered, I was back at work in 3 months. I don't know how I did that or why anyone thought that was a good idea, but I did. And at age 19, when he was 19, we moved to Massachusetts. And we chose Massachusetts for a variety of reasons. People always ask, why on earth would you move from Florida to Massachusetts? Everyone else is doing the opposite. But at that time, Dylan was hopeful. He wanted to study physics. And we also have family here. And, so it just made sense. We quickly found the Lurie Center for Autism, which is part of Mass General. Yay, I have next to that. Then around that same time, we also found the AANE, which now stands for Association for Autism and Neurodiversity. It's changed names a couple of times, but we're very, very fortunate to have that organization in our area. It's regarded very highly across the country, across the world. When he was 20, he was accepted to Bridgewater State University as a physics major, and he started out there. He spent about 4 years going part-time there. He had accommodations, including a reduced course load. He had a peer mentor. Started out gangbusters, just doing great. That point in time was his highest level of functioning. We are still hoping that he will get back to that level. At that time he was mostly independent with his laundry, with his meals, with school. And then the mental health issues started to kick in. Started with depression. So at age 21 or 22, we did the DDS application, and he was found eligible for DDS services. We also soon realized what's sort of known as the services cliff, when kids graduate from high school and they finish oftentimes they'll do an 18 to 22 program, and then all of a sudden, I guess they don't need any services anymore. Or that's how it would seem, right? So his 20s, thank God those years are over. They were absolutely nightmarish years, and some people in this room can testify to that, because they were overhearing Zoom calls and screaming and all kinds of things. But so at age 22, he had his first inpatient hospitalization at McLean Hospital in Middleborough. He had hospitalizations every other year after that. Usually we chose to take him to Butler Hospital. They did a really good job with him. He tried medical marijuana for 9 months. I would not recommend that for people with autism, or at least it is a big risk. Research has shown that, and we can testify, that those individuals are more vulnerable to psychosis, especially if there's a family history, which I do have in my family. He eventually had a full psychotic episode, followed by persistent delusional thinking, which he still has. He did volunteer for the Salvation Army and Charity Guild and WIC. That was after he kind of gave up on school. It was just too hard for him to continue pursuing. He got to the equivalent of a sophomore, I would say. Finished in 4 years. He finished the equivalent of 1 year. He worked with a job coach from BAMSI for a year as a hardware tech at Nerds to Go, and they let him go, and he just couldn't sustain it there. At that time, we added DMH to Dylan's team. We had many middle-of-the-night trips to the hospital. He is now, for 3 years, stable with antipsychotic medication. It's been a long road. We had to switch him from one to another when he developed tardive dyskinesia. He also had a full-blown seizure. But his last hospitalization was 3 years ago. He also developed serious dental problems due to his poor hygiene when the mental health was so poor that he just couldn't take care of his teeth. And so around that time also is when we decided it would be best to become his guardian. Plus we have a Rogers monitor. David and I both are his Rogers monitors for antipsychotic medication, which is required when you are a guardian of an individual. If they need antipsychotic medication, you have to get another guardianship, and that requires annual care plans required by the court. It's very complex. I'm attempting for the first time this year to do it myself, so I don't have to spend thousands of dollars which seems like a racket to me. I hope I don't offend anyone who's in the legal field, but for example, I took a day off last week to figure out all the forms I needed to fill out and do. He also had ABA therapy for years, which ended just recently when the provider, Coastal ABA, could not sustain services for adults. and they changed the model to only serve people under the age of 22, which those are the people that are already getting most of the services. So that was unfortunate because he had just started with a wonderful young men's group in Plymouth that he was really enjoying and starting to make some friends. He really only has one friend. He's had DDS services since COVID from Hope, House of Possibilities. They've been wonderful. But you know, really, the number of hours he gets, because he has the higher IQ, he doesn't get really very many hours, so he gets an hour and a half a week. He also gets services from David through DDS. And David spends a lot of time taking him to appointments, for milkshakes, for various other things. We have a housing search ongoing. There's an article that was written and published in July on Dylan, and it's on a page of resources that I have here, published in the Sun Chronicle in July. So he's been on the waiting list for housing for about 4 years now. And then Till, who was in the back of the room, we have a process, probably a very long process, but at least we've taken the first couple of steps and gotten into their pipeline, I think, as far as I know. So concerns for the future, we're aging, and we have this 30, David's not aging, but I am. And I have to retire eventually. And so, you know, we need housing for him. We can't, and I don't want us to pass away and, you know, him have to adjust to that at the same time that he also adjusts to living not with us. And then also I'd love for him to get out in the work world again. He did have a volunteer job for the summer, which was mostly me. We both signed up for Meals on Wheels, and he went 3 times. I went every time, but you know, that just didn't work out. But we're still trying. He's ready to look for some other volunteer job, maybe at a animal shelter or something. But that's pretty much all I had. Just a very quick rundown of the biography.
Thank you. I think you're seeing, I don't think this is on. I don't hear myself. Want to use this one? Okay. How about now? Nope, not yet.
Is it on?
So,
You want to use this one, Chris?
She can't go far with it.
Thank you. I think what we're hearing is a theme of perseverance, determination, and hope. Hope for the future, a joy in those things that joy can be found in, but hard work. So, questions from the audience? Any questions for Mark, for Alina, or for Angela? Comments, questions? Arguments?
Maybe arguments.
Arguments? I think one of the things that I see.
I have a question for Mark. Did you
Sure.
say exactly nice and loud where that play is that you're
it's at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Bridgewater.
And it's in the FaceTime, or you'll find it online.
50 School Street, Bridgewater.
And for the sake of the recording, it's this play, The Crucible, which of course is a very famous play and very timely. And when the theme is, I believe, persecution, a witch hunt, all of that, fear, you know. At the Unitarian Church, Bridgewater First Parish Unitarian Church, 50 School Street in Bridgewater. We have 2 stars here. Janet, you must have a role. Not this time around. I know you've
Promoting Mark.
Thank you.
Mark. That's great. And when is the date? What is the date again?
It opens the 8th. It runs through the 10th.
November 8th
4
through November 10th.
performances, 1 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday.
Well, it's a lot of performances, a lot of rehearsals.
Yes.
Great, wonderful. Any questions? Yes.
I have a question for Angela. Like, with the whole, I have autism myself as a person with autism, and it's like, I just hear you talk about IQ. What does IQ play into autism? Can't that be a little bit ableist in itself? Because it could seem very prohibitive if your IQ is too low, and it's been used times in the past to do horrible things, so.
Yes, I would agree with you 100%. And also, the fact is, as a practitioner who gives IQ tests, I can tell you that IQ tests are often not accurate for people with autism. You have to be very careful which ones you pick, and if they're too weighted verbally. And the younger the child is, the less accurate it's going to be. So yeah, I would absolutely agree with you on that. Unfortunately, well, now it's not an issue, but since 2014 they passed the Autism Omnibus Law, which requires DDS to provide services for people with autism if they qualify, regardless of IQ. So that used to be a way that they would prevent people with the higher IQs from getting services from DDS, but not anymore.
Do you know what DDS stands for? I mean, I do, but that's what
Sand.
explain.
I'm gonna take the mic.
Can I take it over there? Okay, great. You got it? It won't go so far.
Yeah, I'll just run up here. I just wanted to ask them, how much do you want people to know about you? Because I have learned a lot more about all of you tonight than I would ever know or find out in casual relationships. I've known Mark for many years and didn't know half the stuff that you talked about tonight. So when you want people to interact with you, how much do you want to tell them? How much would you like them to ask? How should we operate with you?
For me, ask anything. I'm open. I'll answer anything. More knowledge is better, I think.
With me, it's absolutely the same.
Pass the mic.
And I would like to say that about me, it's absolutely the same. I'm absolutely open. All questions are welcomed. But I would like to answer this question from the disability study perspective. I like the phrase, I think her name, I don't remember exactly the name, but idea was like, it depends on person.
Yeah.
For example, if I ask the audience, somebody is very open. Some people with disability, as me or Mark, we are open. Somebody are not. And when you are coming and meet new friends, or you see some person, some absolutely new person, you always scan and you understand, is it person open or not? If it's open person, you can ask everything. If it's not open person, and absolutely the same with people with disability, you will see somebody is open, somebody is closed.
I always said you talk to me for 10 minutes and you know my whole life story. But not everybody's like that. That's true. People are not comfortable sometimes. Any other questions or any other comments? Yes, Lorraine.
No, I just want to give a shout out and thank you so much for BCCR for hosting this forum. It's absolutely incredible, and the panel, you're all amazing. I mean, you look beyond challenges and you turn everything into a positive. So I'm part of the town's Disabilities Commission, and we're trying to grow. You know how things are in municipality, you know, little by little. So we're trying to, and I've known Mark for a little while.
I appreciate
Yep.
that totally. But for me, I'm just doing what I would do anyway
Yep.
if I wasn't there.
You are amazing. You really are. I've known you for a while, and all of you. You're
Thank you.
amazing. But I think what BCCR does is just incredible. So thank you so much for this.
I'm very glad that this has been well received. Any other questions or comments? No? Okay. Then I just
maybe
have,
I'll just.
oh yes, in kind.
Sorry. So I have talked to. I've been at Bridgewater State for about 27 years. So in the earlier years, 10, 20 years ago, when students who are handicapped or disabled, so I just need a bit louder.
You need a mic.
Okay, I'll come.
It's taped down, so I'm sorry, I have to make you walk.
Yeah, so I'm a historian. I'm always interested in how we're doing every 5 years or 10 years because we live our lives. We've seen changes, we've seen the law. The law is old, but it's been 34 years. So now, how are we doing? In terms of the town for people who have lived here, because we've heard stories that that there seem public works, there's still challenges. Social services, there's still challenges. Accessibility, there's still challenges. But when I was talking to Jonathan, who's also another student who was at Bridgewater for a long time, he always said that Bridgewater wasn't doing enough, even though everyone is nice. Everyone was nice, but it's nice is not the same as doing real action and real change. So I think the most important thing is to, on the one hand, to improve the facilities and infrastructure.
Yes.
On the other hand, is to just hang out with people of all backgrounds. It doesn't matter. It's physical, mental, social, cultural, linguistic, anything who are different. We're all different. So just normalize difference. Difference is normal. Thank you.
Amen.
We still have a little bit of time. Yes, Beryl. Why don't you come up to the mic, would you?
Well, firstly, thank you very much, all of you, Mark, Elena, and Angela, and the committee, for providing this excellent forum and this excellent opportunity to speak about all of us that are temporarily abled and those who are already disabled. The question I have is really about housing. All of you spoke about accessibility or the lack thereof. That accessibility doesn't always mean accessible. But housing is really important, right? Because if you have the housing that provides you with all of the facilities that you need, I'm getting to that age where I might be looking for accessible housing. I have a grandchild who is on the autism spectrum. Yes, he's only 13, but I start to worry about when he gets to be 18, 22, when services go off the cliff, and when he needs to be independent. So can you speak to what we can do as a community to enhance housing? At least, if not just in Bridgewater, but in general. But we are in the process in Bridgewater of developing or enhancing our downtown and other areas in the city, in the town of Bridgewater. And we can have a say in what these expansion of housing would look like. So it's just something we should think about. We can have a say, but I would like to hear what each of you say about what we can do about housing.
I can quickly say I would love for Dylan to be able to remain in Bridgewater. He loves Bridgewater, and he knows it, and he's comfortable here, and he knows lots of people here. So if we could somehow designate some of that new housing to be for people with disabilities, that would make me very happy.
As I'm very new in this country, to be honest, I don't know how all of this working. If I understand correctly, housing, it is like accessible living for people with disability, correct? Yeah?
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, so I had a challenge. I mean, as I was new person in country, I lived my 1.5 year in my brother's house. It wasn't accessible, so we made it partially accessible. And then we tried to rent some house or rent apartment, and we couldn't do it because it was like second or third floor. Even if it was first floor, the bathroom wasn't accessible. So it is a super challenge to find something. So if there are some possibility to have housing in Bridgewater, I am absolutely agree, because I see myself in this area, and I would like to continue to work for university. So for now, I'm living with my parents. I depend on them, but we have the same problem. My parents becoming older and older, close to my situation, and yeah, it's a big challenge what to do next.
For me, I'm lucky. I live in the Bridgewater Housing Authority. I have all that I need, but it didn't come easy. I moved into apartment when I first moved into Hemlock Drive. It wasn't fully accessible. I was told 6 months I'd move into a fully accessible unit, no problem. I'm like, okay. I don't have to unpack everything because I moved in 6 months. 6 years later, I moved into the apartment. You need to do it funding faster, and they had the funding, and I guess it fell through, and then I waited longer and longer, and but right now I'm in a good situation. I have everything I need, roll-in shower, big enough for me and my cat Tyrion. We're both happy. All new appliances, all new floors, all new everything, and they're willing to help me with anything I need as of accommodations or anything. So, but more of that, definitely more housing, funding.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
I wanted just to add, like, we couldn't find the apartment, so finally we sold our house in Estonia to buy condo here, and it was just unique condo during several months is what was suitable. And the bathroom is still not accessible, but at least it's first floor, and now we're working on the issue to rebuild the bathroom. So I think it's the issue of all people with disability.
Sorry.
Yeah, it was just a small remark.
Sorry about that. I couldn't get that.
And it's an issue for people like me who are aging and have made accommodations in our home. We are able to manage on one floor if need be, but not everyone can do that. And I think it's something that we have a crisis in housing in the United States anyway, regardless of particular issues, it's a crisis. And it's very expensive. I mean, this is not news to anyone. So it's an issue that really, really needs attention, and especially for people who do have particular challenges, whether they're physical or mental or whatever. We have a homeless population that is an embarrassment, and not enough places for them to seek shelter, have shelter, and be okay. So it's a big issue, many, many facets. It's almost 7:30, and we have 15 minutes, and we have to vacate the building more or less. So I'm going to make a closing statement. I want to thank our panelists again for their contribution. For sharing their lives in detail that many of us may or may not be so comfortable with if the tables were turned. And for sharing their stories, for helping us see that we all have hopes, dreams, and want to live our best lives. And I know that my perception continues to change, to be altered, and I'm hoping that, like me, you've learned a little bit tonight too. So thank you very much. And again, thanks to my committee and everybody from BCCR who helped put this together tonight. Thank you.